on our very first session on the Transportation Initiative. As you know, there'll be more, and more things will be fleshed out. But right now, I'd like to introduce Mayor Demings, who will be here to talk, and then at the end, with commissioners, answer some of your questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jane, and thank you to all of you for being here this afternoon. Thank you for also attending the Orange County Board work session. I would like to acknowledge Commissioner Vanderley, who is here, and Commissioner Bonilla, as well as the county administrator and our team here from Orange County that has worked so diligently to put together today's work session. I'm really excited about the overwhelming participation in our transportation surveys that were done. We had nearly 11,000 of those surveys completed. You've seen today that the community feedback and survey responses are helping to form the framework for the proposed transportation improvement plan pursuant to a charter county and regional transportation system surtax, i.e. the transportation sales tax. This plan is essentially guided by what the community has told us and is a bottom-up plan based upon bottom-up rather than a top-down plan based upon what the citizens have said to us. As many of you know, my staff and I took part in nearly 200. I personally participated in about 160 different community meetings seeking input on the proposed transportation sales tax. I always started the meetings with two questions. Many of you covered those meetings, and so you know that I asked this question: how many of you believe we have a transportation problem in Orange County? And usually everyone in the room said, yes, we have one. And then I would ask the question, how many of you would like us to do something about it, and meaning the elected leadership and other leaders in this community. And again, almost always everyone said, we want you to do something about it. And now we're taking the next steps, which is necessary to provide for the solution to the traffic congestion problems that we have. It is my belief that in order to do this, we need a funding source, a dedicated funding source that will enable us to make the transformative results our community needs. Today you heard a recap of our community engagement efforts and the transportation plans framework. On March 24th, the Board of County Commissioners will hold another work session to hear details on the transportation improvement plan. The funding priority list and framework is aligned with the four key categories of transit, roadways, safety, and recurring maintenance and operational costs. Then on April 7th, the county commissioners will vote on whether to place the transportation sales tax on the November 2020 ballot and let Orange County voters decide if it should be passed or not. For months, I've been talking about how the transportation system is broken, and we're not just talking about links, but we have many failed roads as well. Those of you who looked at the survey results, you know that the citizens really kind of backed me up when nearly 78% of survey respondents identified traffic congestion as a problem, while 58% believe building a mass transit system is a top priority. And to those citizens, what I say to them is that we hear you. We have listened to our citizens, and the drumbeat, quite frankly, has grown louder for a call to action. Our citizens want us to offer solutions that will reduce traffic congestion and improve the productivity or the predictability and the reliability of their commutes. For those critics who see this as a regressive tax, I say this to them: doing nothing really is not a good option for us in this community. We can do better. We want to help the people you and the media have highlighted in your stories. The Orlando Sentinel and WKMG TV did profiles showing how it takes some workers 3 to 5 hours, even more, to get to their jobs using public transportation. To me, that's a sad state of affairs. We can do better as a community. If we can pass this tax and help our workers and others cut their commute time in half or cut it down by an hour or 30 minutes or less. Our citizens regain precious time that could be spent with their families, that could be used for recreation, education, or job skills development to improve their own employability. I will remind everyone that, again, 51% or better of the proposed tax revenues will be paid for by the tourists and non-residents. Doing nothing, again, is not an option. I've said it before and I'll stress it again. If not now, when? If not us, who? This sales tax will allow us to take control of our own destinies because it will be locally controlled. We will no longer be totally dependent on the uncertainty of federal or state funds. We need to collectively do something to address our transportation needs countywide, and we are working to do so. So what I say to all of you as we continue to update our community, stay tuned to the ocfl.net/transportation website so that you can get additional information. And now I'd be happy to take a few questions, and if I can't answer them, I brought backup. I know my talented staff can answer those questions.
Mayor, if this were to pass, how quickly could voters start to see a difference?
Well, if the tax passes, we will potentially begin collecting revenues in January of 2021, so roughly a year from now. And so we would have to begin collecting revenues in order to spend the funds. There's a potential that we certainly could go out for bond issues and bond it if we know that this happens. But the short answer to, I think there are some short-term solutions that they could see almost immediately in terms of beginning to address the lack of, for example, bus shelters at various stops. We will begin to work with other authorities such as the Links Board of Directors and Links to begin to move forward with purchasing additional buses to expand the routes. You could perhaps see immediately, or when I say immediately, within a short period of time, the expansion of the hours of operation for Sunrail. You can begin to see us address things like bus rapid transit lanes and perhaps pedestrian safety features and other things that we can begin to put in place within a relatively short period of time. In all transparency, some of what has to happen here will take decades to get to because they are enormous in terms of their complexity of acquiring right-of-way and other things to really truly address commuter rail and some of those related issues.
Mayor, right now Boston is looking at the idea of, and I'm not saying it's the same as what Commissioner Bonilla suggested in there, but they're looking at half-price fares, income-based fares, kind of like been discussed with tolling that we're going to see on I-4, which is, when it's very busy, it's more expensive, and when it's not so busy, it's less expensive. Is that a possible solution if the investment's going to be made in mass transit, that maybe income-based Sunrail and Links ridership would be something that you would consider?
I think all of that is certainly possible. Those are conversations that the Links Board will have to have about ridership. But essentially every major metropolitan community around America, ridership alone, that what you charge people to ride doesn't come close to paying for the true cost of operating the system. They all rely on a combination of either dedicated funding sources, federal funds, or state dollars, or other local dollars to really make it work. We will have to do the same here. We will have to explore our financial models to see whether or not it is a possibility. But again, there's significant costs associated with doing something transformative in our community.
So the folks who live out west, Commissioner Van Lake kind of touched on it, where public transportation isn't their #1 priority over there. And we're hearing in the immediate future we'll see bus shelters and maybe some pedestrian safety. How are you going to sell it to the folks when they might not see any improvements for attendance?
Well, I've been in all of these communities. I have done more presentations than anyone else on this issue, and what I do have is a healthy respect for the feedback that the citizens have given us. And I've been in the Four Corners, the Western Corners, and there are residents there who did tell me that they would support this initiative because they understand what it means to get people off the roadways, out of cars, and into other transit. One of the reasons why they don't take the public bus system is because of the lack of connectivity there. But certainly this tax would also potentially address other corridors. For the future, I believe that we really need to do a better job of connecting some of these outlying areas geographically to the central core of the county itself. And in order to build additional spurs that may come off of the main Sunrail line, it will be costly to do. But there are some existing rail lines, let's say in the Apopka or Orange Blossom Trail corridor, that potentially could be used for commuter rail. And when we think about the potential for the future, we have to take advantage of all of that. But our citizens have been really clear that, based on the survey results, that they really do want to see us create a better mass transit system. That is one of the top priorities. But they also saw priorities with improving the roadways, improving street lighting, improving the bus system itself. The story that you did on the young mother was a very compelling story, where there are thousands of citizens who find themselves similarly situated as she does today, with not having the income to be able to afford the transportation just to get to work. And I know that there was good news that came out of that story, because I understand that some citizens stepped up and provided an automobile to that mother. But that's the benefit, I think, of a growing caring community that we have. And so I look forward to solving these solutions long term.
What kind of polling have you all done, and what are you seeing as far as the kind of support this would get?
There have been various polls done by different private sector groups, and they have shared some of the results with me. And the polling indicated at that time that those polls were done that this tax likely will pass. But that's a snapshot at a point in time. We still have a lot of work to do to educate our public about specifically what the plan is. We have spent the last many months listening to them, and now we're at the phase where we're building a plan with the type of specificity to be able. This tax would even be inadequate for that. So we have to look for public-private partnerships. The government is not really capable of solving all of the needs of any particular community. So even with this particular tax, we still have housing challenges and the like. But what we are looking for is, I think, partnerships. And we had one just a couple of months ago. Universal did announce a partnership for housing associated with creating housing in the International Drive corridor, where workers would be able to live closer to where they work in that corridor. And we're going to continue to look for those types of collaborations to address the housing issues. You heard me talk even earlier today about two particular items that was on our consent agenda that really address housing-related issues, and we'll continue to do that.
Mayor, I know you sat in on a lot of community engagements, but of the surveys, what was the most shocking to you, or looking at all this, what to you kind of surprised you?
I guess there were really not many surprises, because I've been doing this for so long, and prior to even becoming the mayor, I shared with you that I went to over 1,000 different meetings, and I had already done a lot of listening to our community. This is home for me. This is where I was born and raised. So I've been actively engaged in this community for 40 years of being a public servant. So there's little I haven't seen or heard. So in all honesty, I'm not shocked by what our citizens have said to us. In fact, this is why at the State of the County last year, I announced it would be my intention to move forward with this initiative.
Okay, we're good.
Can I ask one last
One more question? Okay.
Yes. Commissioner Bonilla and Commissioner Vandalay and Commissioner Rive and Moore all mentioned issues that I think all of us as reporters have heard people talk about, which are reasons why not to vote for a tax like this. How do you overcome that? What do you do? Because I think all those things have a real basis in legitimacy. I mean, we just hear those things from people.
Well, I think what we have endeavored to do is listen and make certain that the plan of action that we come forward is based upon what we've heard. We're not tone deaf in this situation, and so what you have heard and will continue to hear, at least from me, is a very responsive approach to what the citizens have said to us.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor.